Well, Oklahoma State is starting to get just a little bit of love, but if we cannot capitalize on this season, especially in terms of recruiting, will it be enough?
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. We are available on all of your podcasting platforms as well as visually on YouTube. You can find me personally at All Day OState on Twitter. Right now, we're just going to jump right into the ticker there. So the first thing we've got to cover is the dark horse scenario and why we are a legitimate dark horse for a reason. So recently, Crystal Ball College Football just did some of their dark horse contenders. And when they got to the Big 12, one of them had Oklahoma State, the other one had KU. I think both of those are beyond reasonable arguments. I think you could also make the argument for Texas Tech. TCU was not eligible as far as their criteria simply because they were the national runner-up, so it's kind of hard to be a dark horse, right? Same goes with Kansas State, won the Big 12 title, so they can't exactly be considered a dark horse either. So I get it. It's fair. You could throw Baylor in there, and as ironic as it is to say, we should be the dark horse. And they did talk about the schedule. We're not going to go super deep because we've talked about it before, but just, broad scheme of things, the schedule does matter. It is important. We do play every team that's currently ranked below us on our schedule. And then our, biggest home games are going to be Kansas State and OU, right? And then the away games, we go to Ames super early season, not when it's late in the season, and super cold, which is always tricky. We get to end the year going to Florida. That's awesome. We go to Houston. That's awesome. We get BYU at home as well. We get KU at home as well. We don't play Texas Tech. We don't play Texas. We play all four of the newcomers. It sets up right. Yeah. And it's not just about the schedule. I think we all know that. But a part of the equation that I'm curious on is, of course, your opinions. You guys let me know down in the comments section. Who are some dark horse contenders? Is Baylor potentially a dark horse contender? Is there somebody else that we're not talking about? Could BYU sneak up year one and right away make things a little bit interesting? Let me know down in the comments section. Obviously, like it if you like it. Dislike it if you don't like it. Explain to me why you didn't like it, what we could have done better. As we're now officially on the road to 1,000, I think as far as the dark horse for us is considered, it's all about, again, capitalization. But why, right? I don't buy into the same argument as everybody else this season in particular when it comes to recruiting, okay? But you cannot ignore what is happening in Lubbock right now. Every recruit that's going through that building is buying in. They are believing wholeheartedly what Joey McGuire is selling. They're putting a significant amount of money into their stadium. It should be done pretty soon. They have no problem throwing money at the basketball department. They have no problem throwing money right now to try to grow, right? They were actually the first one of the Big 12 to announce that they were going to give a set amount to each football player. Every single one, including 10 to 15 walk-ons, they were all going to get the same exact amount. It didn't matter. Whether you were a starter, backup, fourth string, didn't play, did play. And I think that was a smart move, right? It was a set amount, $25K. But you do know that there's donors and everything that are going to give some of the high-profile guys more. But nonetheless, it did set the precedence that if you come to Texas Tech, we're going to do things a certain way. And Joey McGuire does have a lot of acumen in the state of Texas. He has a very good relationship with high school coaches in the state of Texas. Baylor let a good one go there. They really did. And again, people are buying in. I do firmly believe that we have at least 3, possibly 4 commits that will end up being 4-star by the time their high school career is over. So before they ever even make it to Stillwater. But Texas Tech has 4 or 5 right now. And so I do understand that there's a time and a place for everything. And I love the way we're recruiting right now. Last year's class, different story, right? The transfer market is going to take us leaps and bounds above what we should have been due to our just high school recruiting class from last season. Now, is there going to be some gems out of the group? Absolutely, for sure, right? I mean, heck, you could even peel back the layers of the onion just in the running back room and be pretty excited about what we have coming in. But when we're talking about recruiting, right, for instance, we just lost out on Chima Chineke. We knew he was an Iowa lean. He'd been in Iowa lean for quite some time, but you got to give a shout out to Coach G. Rich and Coach Brian Nardo and Coach Joe Bob, right, for all giving him enough to not commit to Iowa when he was ready to. At least Oklahoma State did enough to make him at least question, is Iowa the right decision? Now, clearly, Iowa found a way to re-roll out the red carpet and get him reeled back in, but it doesn't mean it's over, right? We know how this recruiting cycle and everything goes. But TCU, they're doing pretty good. I think you could say they're living off of last year's success. KU, their transfer market is good. Their recruiting class, high school-wise, is getting better. They're getting more people in the door than they potentially ever have, really. And they did that in a year and a half. So with how hot Texas Tech is and with how up-and-coming KU potentially can be if they keep Lance Leipold there and they continue at this trajectory, K-State is already here. TCU is currently, they're thriving off of the run they made last year. And I think the same argument can be made about K-State as well. So the question is, how far does Oklahoma State go down if we don't capitalize on this year, on this system, on the teams that we avoid, on the schedule, on the crazy talent we have at the safety position? The talent is enough to keep us in every single ball game. We're going to have to do some things to overcome some adversity, but that's normal, right? Everybody has to do that every single year. But with a lot of places that are very hot right now in recruiting, while Oklahoma State's kind of staying with status quo, although I do believe more in film development right now than ever before, simply because the recruiting services are going to have more to dissect, right? They are going to have to talk about some of the transfers as opposed to just focus on high school guys coming up. So more people will slip through the cracks. We all know that. But again, if Tech can do it, if K-State can do it, if TCU can do it, and if Baylor can do it, if all of these places can get quote-unquote higher-rated recruits, then don't we think that we need to capitalize? Don't we think this has to be a massively productive year? I mean, I don't know any other time that we've had this kind of schedule. I really don't. And we've got the talent. We're deeper at the O-line position than we have been in a long time. We go 4 deep in the running back room. Our wide receiver core, we lost some depth, but the talent is just fine. Defensively, you know how high I am on the defense, not just because of the athletes, but also what the coaching continuity is going to bring alongside Brian Nardo. I love what Brian Nardo's doing on the recruiting trail right now. He's fairly hot. But if we have, let's say, a 5th place finish or a 4th place finish in the Big 12 this year, is Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas State, Baylor, BYU, are these teams, UCF, are they going to start reeling us in too quickly? Are they going to start surpassing us in recruiting before we even know how to stop our head from spinning? Obviously, you let me know down in the comment section, right? But to me, the answer is unequivocally yes. We have to capitalize this year for sure, or we might start getting left behind a little bit, which is crazy to think because if you look at the most successful teams in the conference, it goes OU, Oklahoma State over the last, it's especially in Gundy's tenure. Wins aren't everything. Championships matter. Playing for championships matter. We all know that. But you can't say the dude's not crazy successful because Mike Gundy is. But if OU's not in the league, and we can't play them for 8 years because of schedule, I know we've heard Gundy maybe doesn't want to play them after that. I can't stand it. I think it'll come back eventually. Most good rivalries do in due time. But, I mean, talk me off the ledge, guys. Tell me I am crazy. Tell me why we could finish 4th or 5th place in the Big 12 this year and still be fine moving forward. All right. But if you guys haven't already downloaded FanDuel, I mean, come on, what are we doing? It is America's #1 sportsbook betting partner for a reason. We all know it. Right now, you can bet $20 and get up to $200 back in bonus bets, win or lose, right? So it makes it a win-win situation. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now to get yourself squared away and hooked up. Use the app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. You don't want to miss out on your opportunity here to get $200 back, win or lose. Bet $20, get up to $200 back. It's perfect. And there's a lot of time in this baseball season to capitalize. You can bet on home runs. You can bet on money lines. You can bet on over-unders. Statistically, there's so much in baseball that you can bet on. It makes it really, really fun. So do yourself a favor. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get yourself hooked up with that $200 back in bonus bets and see what kind of wild, fun ride you can have with that. All right. So next thing we have on the L Thingy-Mahabi is, if you saw recently, Mike Boynton was back at home where he feels most comfortable, Rucker Park, which is legendary in the New York area. And this is a really cool deal that the Big 12 put on. And this was all the Big 12 did all of this, right? It was Big 12 shirts, Big 12 equipment, Big 12 basketballs, Big 12 coaches. And of course, they had, a bunch of players from around the area. If you're trying to take your brand as far as it can go, there's a really good way to do it. Now, is everybody in the conference going to capitalize from the New York market? Maybe not. Maybe not. But it's good for the conference. And if it's good for the conference, I think it's good for us. Now, basketball is something that we kind of need to get back in the fray of when it comes to being ultra competitive. But this is good for Mike Boynton. And if he can have a good year, it will benefit us in recruiting. I don't want, the Big 12 to get too heavy in the Madison Square Garden stuff. I think it's a brilliant idea. But if anybody thinks that hosting the Big 12 tournament anywhere other than Kansas City, I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. I mean, guys, it's literally smack dab, pretty much middle of America. Like, it doesn't get much more fair. I mean, I know KU wins it a lot and KU's there, but geographically, it makes sense. It does not make sense. Talk about alienation. If we take a Big 12 tournament to Madison Square Garden, I think that would be terrible for most of the fan bases. Keep it the way it's been. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Should we do stuff in Madison Square Garden? Yeah. Should we have as many Big 12 teams in that area as possible? Yes. Should we continue to do things like this? Absolutely. Now, as an Oklahoma State fan, us having the Mike Boynton, that being his home area connection, it obviously, makes things a little bit better for us. But the theme here, it continues to be capitalization. We can go to Rucker Park all we want, all the time. But if it doesn't mean we can capitalize on the recruiting side of things out there, then it's a moot point. So this is a really good opportunity for us. And there are several Big 12 coaches out there. That's awesome. To have the brand of the conference represented that way out there in such a historical place, it's a big deal. And it could be something that we see a lot more of because we know how innovative and forthright our new commissioner is. And Brett Yormark, we trust. Yeah, I think this is a smart move. I don't want to get too tied up in the New York area with, again, like the Big 12 tournament type of thing. But with more expansion coming, things like this are going to matter. Trying to get the Big 12 from a marketability standpoint or a profitability standpoint a little bit bigger, this can do nothing but help. And again, it's going to be phenomenal for us as OState fans if Boynton does have a good year and we can start doing stuff like this on a regular basis because that's his cup of tea, right? That's his stomping grounds. These are his places that he would love to be with his guys. So let me know what you think about this. Do you think that this is something that Brett Yormark's going to expand, right? Do East Coast one, West Coast one, Northern one, Southern one? We all know that Brett Yormark is not afraid to, for lack of a better term, reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's basically what it is for the Big 12. The Big 12's been kind of constrained to this box, I would say, for quite some time. I think that's fair, right? Bob Bowlesby he wouldn't know what marketing was if it turned around and smacked him in the jaw. So, Brett Yormark has got something cooking here. And Mike Boynton is somebody who could and should benefit the most from Brett Yormark's affinity for the East Coast when it comes to the game of basketball. All right, so we'll carry on again to the next thing on the ticker here. If you see, pretty simplistic, Christian Encarnacion-Strand. And if part of that sounds unfamiliar to you, when he was at Oklahoma State, he just went by Christian Encarnacion. He was Encarnacion-Strand on the website and everything, but he just went by Encarnacion. His ascension has been really fun to watch. And if you hadn't had the opportunity to see the highlight of him getting his first call up to the Cincinnati Reds and smashing a 3-run bomb to help the Reds take the lead, talk about a introduction to Major League Baseball. When you do things like that, you're probably going to be able to carve out a nice little role for yourself within that organization. And, he was kind of a fan favorite. A lot of people loved watching him in orange and black. And we don't have enough Cowboys that are taking, prominent roles on a continuous basis in Major League Baseball. So hopefully this is, a trend that we see more of, because you are seeing some guys kind of matriculate their way up through the minors. Oklahoma State baseball should always, and realistically for the most part has always, produced some baseball players that go to the major leagues and have a nice little career for themselves. But does this mean I'm a Reds fan now? No, not so much now. Does this mean I'm going to buy a Reds jersey? Probably. This is enough. Like, I've been following, I've been waiting, I've been watching, and I knew it was only a matter of time, right? When you're putting up ridiculous numbers, those catch the eye. and you cannot replace production. So if somebody can produce these kind of runs on a regular basis, you got to have them in the lineup. Absolutely. With everything that's gone down recently in baseball, it'll be interesting to see what Nolan McLean does. It'll be fun to watch what DeZaun Watts-Brown can be, because his spin rate is already at that level, which is why he was a high draft pick. Nolan McLean's versatility is why he was that high of a draft pick, and the arm talent. And he has a lot of power. So you don't really know exactly, which side is going to break through to get Nolan McLean up there a little bit higher. Marcus Brown, if he can figure out some consistency at the plate, yeah, he can have a long go of it. We didn't get to see enough of Brian Henry, but he's an Okie, so it'll be fun to see kind of how he navigates the waters. You notice I didn't mention Rock Reggio there because fourth round's disrespectful. Rock Reggio should not take that. He should absolutely come back. Let's have another ride. It worked for Nolan McLean. It can work for you. Come on, buddy. All righty, y'all. I think that's all we're gonna have for this one right here. A little bit of a tease, I guess you could say. So tomorrow, I'm planning on doing a live show via YouTube, probably tomorrow evening, and I'll break down some of the things that I've seen as far as Twitter Spaces and the difficulty sometimes with navigating those, as well as like a Q&A, right? If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, feel free to fire away. So stay tuned for that one. But until tomorrow, y'all, I appreciate you stopping by. I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And of course, I want to thank you all very much for stopping by. To tune in to make this your first listen, there's plenty of places you could go. We appreciate you stopping through here to make this your primary listen for Oklahoma State. All right, y'all. Later, taters.